Okay, so today we are on day 4 of the 13 days of Craftoween. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. Per usual, I'm keeping my pattern paper in the box, so I'll just set that to the side with my extra little embellishments from my own stash. And if you haven't seen the previous videos, I will link those. But essentially, we have our embellishments. We have our stamp set. This is so fun. I'm enjoying those. And then so far we've done day 1, 2, and 3. And here we are on day 4. I'm really loving these little folders that come in these little polymer bags. The artwork is fun. And I love that these keep the little die set neat and secure, saves space and everything. I just love this whole box. Like, this to me is well organized. It's a great space saver and it's all together. Okay, so let's open up day 4 and see what we have. And I love this. It's kind of Harry Potter-ish, but let's go ahead and open that up. And in this one, we have a ghost and eating pizza, little jack-o'-lantern, and then a banner that says boo. So how fun is that? That is super fun. Okay, so these are the dies that we're going to work with today. Again, they come on this vellum sheet with a little bit of an adhesive, and then this is basically a map of your die cuts, so you can always know how to put them back so that they fit, as well as making sure that you have all your pieces. The other thing to note is that there's also this cute little kitten right here. So I think this is going to be super fun. How awesome is that? All right, let me go ahead, pull some pattern paper and solid paper, all the good things, and then we'll get started on the project. Okay, so I have my pattern paper. That will be later when we put together the card base. And I went ahead and I die cut all of the elements for our little ghost. That way we could start putting that together. And I think that'll come together rather quickly. I've got our little cat here. This is such a cute little cat. Almost like he's gonna be diving for the pizza. So I'm gonna have the cat. We have our banner. And on top of our banner, we have our letters. Now I'm gonna get out a micron pen. This is going to allow me to go over those letters. They're just kind of impressed in there. Then that will give it some definition. Okay, this is for our ghost. All right, now our pizza. I do have the pepperoni layer and I have the cheese layer. We can decide if we want a light crust or a dark crust. As far as the jack-o'-lantern, I do have 2 different shadow layers underneath there. I kind of like the idea of black eyes, so I'm leaning toward the black one. Okay, however, we could also use brown so that the stem is brown and then color in the eyes. And then in here, I do have a couple of black eyes for our little ghost friend. Okay, so I think we've got all of the elements that we need. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in for you. Definitely the cat is ready to go. Don't need to worry about that. And then I guess the question is whether we want a brown stem and we'd have to fill in the eyes, or we could even put a piece of black cardstock underneath there, or we can just go with the black eyes like that. Still not decided, so I'm going to let that go to the side. This one is easy breezy. Let's grab our tweezers here, and we're going to put these little banner pieces on top. Might be easier to do that with a wax tool, but tweezers are okay. Get this into place. All right, yeah, I think that, well, I don't know if it's easier with a wax tool. If we do that, we're going to have to put glue on the banner itself, which is fine. So we have B, then we have the O, and we have our third O. And then I have my acrylic block here, so I'm going to grab that. And as we build these elements, the cat isn't built, it's already built. I don't have to do anything, but everything else, I'm just going to throw these under the acrylic block and let them sit there. So for the pizza, I think I do want the lighter crust. I could come in with some ink blending. Let me see what that would look like. All right, so this is wheat, and I think what I'm going to do is I have like a little sponge, and I'm going to just pick up a little bit of the wheat, tap that off a little bit, and then I'm just going to go around the edge of the top of that crust. Not very much at all, just barely. Okay, so just like that. So we're done with that there. Next, we're going to put our pepperoni layer on. So that goes next. Okay. Get the pepperoni layer all lined up. All right. And you can see here on the bottom, there's a little bit of crust left over. So we could even come in and just go along that, give it a little bit more dimension, just like that. And then we have our cheese layer. Give that a little bit of glue. And then we're going to put this right on top of that pepperoni layer, just like that. Check out how cute that little pizza is. Now the ink blending is completely optional. I do think it added a little bit of dimension to the pizza crust. Then how about I'm going to my black that I have here, and I'm just going to trim off a little bit of that. We'll go ahead and put that on top of our eyes on our pumpkin. So we're going to get some black eyes, and then we're going to sandwich that between the layers. So now I'll grab my tweezers, get out some glue. Okay, and then we'll layer this right on top of that brown. And then there is our jack-o'-lantern. And now we have both colors. We have that black eyes and we have the brown stem. And then we can come in with our micron pen here in a little bit, and we can go over those lines. I think with our ghost, I'm going to grab a piece of cardstock, or the same cardstock. We'll just do a little piece on the back, and then when we flip it over, now we have the black eyes. So then I'm going to go ahead and layer both of our little ghost, and then go ahead and just put this behind there. I think that might be the easiest. So let's add some glue to the back of here. Okay, put this ghost down. Make sure that's all lined up. Okay, fantastic. Next, we're going to put our ghost layer right on top, like so. It's going to be sitting in that area. All right, get him down on here and then shift that into place. And then we're going to let our little ghost hang out. So let's work with these really fast. I'm going to take my micron pen. So I'm going to take this one, and even though you can kind of see the black through the slit, it's just microscopic. So what I want to do is go over these debossed lines. Let that dry for a minute, and then I'll do the same thing over here. I'm going to hold on to my little pumpkin like that. There's a few debossed lines over here. So we'll just go over those with this little micron pen. So that's perfect. So cute. Okay, so there's our little banner. All right. And then I'm just going to go over this little mouth right here. Love it. So now we can put our card together. Okay, so I have some elements that I die cut previously. So I was thinking that it might be fun to have this pattern paper, and I used one of my new favorite, these here. They're called deckled rectangles, and it's just a bunch of it looks like the paper's been torn all the way around. But I thought it might be fun to have that like as a cutout, and then it's kind of wonky, and then we can put this in here, and then we can have our ghost. And this is trimmed down to 4 by 5 1/4. All right, this is our card base. I'm gonna set my magnets on top, and then I'm just going to go around with my glue around this perimeter. Doesn't need a ton. And then we're gonna get this centered on our card base. So about like that. That is fantastic. Okay, then we have this element here. So this is just an arch out of my arch dies. And this arch is 2 inches wide by 3 1/4 tall. So we'll just put this right down in here, just like that. Perfect. And now let's just start placing our elements. What I want to do is just kind of set them on top first and see if I like where they are. So we have that. We will have our little ghost. That is so cute. And the ghost is holding our pizza. We'll need a tiny bit of foam tape for that one. And then we can have our cat kind of up like that, and our little jack-o'-lantern over here. How fun. The other option is to bring the ghost down right over here. Have our little jack-o'-lantern here in the corner like that. And then we could have our cat be jumping out. That's actually really cute too. So maybe I'm just gonna go with that. All right, let's start with our banner. Gonna get a little bit of glue on the back of our banner, including the strings. Okay, and then as far as the strings are concerned, I'm just gonna kind of tap off a little bit of that glue there. And then we want this in the middle, or what looks to be the middle. And press that down. That looks great. Let's have our cat. Wish I had used black cardstock that was both, because it would be kind of fun to have the cat going like that. But since it's not, it's okay. We'll have the cat come out like this. Let's put a little bit of foam adhesive behind our cat. Let's actually go with these super tiny little adhesive dots, and we can put them so that they're behind the eyes. And these, I think, are like 1 millimeter. They are so tiny. So now the eyes stand out, so that's good. And then we can come in. We're going to need to trim this down just a bit, or actually I have one here that is smaller. So we need one that is going to be about that long, and set that right down there in our cat. And I don't know that I can get one here. Think that might be too wide. Oh, but I do have, wonder if these are skinny enough, at least for the tail maybe. Okay, so we'll have that piece there, just like that. And then we can put this tiny little piece here on our tail and cut off what we don't need. Or actually, we can just curve that around. Perfect. Oh my goodness, that was great. All right, now let's take off our paper. Now you could certainly put this down flat. You don't have to foam tape if you're not wanting to mess with all these tiny little pieces. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue on the foam pieces just so I have a little bit of wiggle room. And then we're going to put the cat like right here. So the cat is coming down. I'll do the jack-o'-lantern with no dimension. We'll just set him right here in the corner. I think that's all right. And then we have our ghost and our pizza. So our pizza is going to be on our ghost. Could we pop him up? I think we could. So I'm going to follow the curve here at the bottom, and then we can follow the curve at the top on our little ghosty friend, right like that. We have this. He's pretty easy to place, so I'm not going to use any liquid glue. Pizza will be right there. So I'll have him right like that. Perfect. Okay, now let's figure out our pizza, because we are going to need a little bit of foam tape under the pizza. So we're going to need that corner, and I think this little piece right here is going to be perfect. And then We'll have that just sit right on top there. And that's hanging out there, and now it's the same level. That looks fantastic. All right, so now we need to do our sentiment and our embellishments. I'm going to bring in my Misty. That way I can get a really nice stamping impression. And I'm going to turn this over, put this here, just like that. And then that can go down in there. And then I'm going to put this sentiment in the inside, and it says, I want a piece of you. Okay, so like that. Close the door, pick it up, wipe it off a little bit, use the VersaFine. We'll get that stamped nicely. And we'll put that down, and we'll press lightly. We don't want to press too hard. And I'm going to pick that up, and I think that looks great. I don't want to put any more ink on that. And take this out of the Misty. Okay, and since this ink is pretty potent, I'm going to go ahead and clean that stamp really fast. And then I've noticed something that I didn't notice before, but here in the back, there's like a crease here, so I must have been thinking about doing like a fun fold. So let me measure how wide that crease is. So that crease is 1 1/4. So I think what I'm going to do is something that I don't normally do, and I'm going to put a piece of pattern paper that matches the inside, the outside. I'm going to do that on the inside. So if it's 1 1/4, I want to do, let's do 3/4 of an inch. Actually, take that back. Let's find out how wide this one is, because I would like to have 1/4 inch strips. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to cut this down to 4 1/4, because that's how wide the card is. This, however wide it is, I want 2 strips that are 1/4 inch wide. So here is one. Here is another. So we're going to use those. So we want 4 1/4 for the width. And then it's 1 1/4. I want to come in 1/2 inch because I have the 2 strips that I'll put on either side of that. All right. Then I'm going to come in here. I'm going to get our tape runner, actually. I think that will be easier. And I'm going to go right across the edge here down to that crease, just like that. And then we're going to put these pieces on the card. This one will be super critical. I need to get it lined up perfectly in that corner and along here. Press down, release. And then the other 2 will just go right up against it. Okay, and this one here. Want it to go right up against that orange, just like that. Okay, so that's cute, and it hid the fact that I had a crease on the inside of my card from when I was probably trying out some kind of fun fold. So that looks fun, and it's different. You can still write a little sentiment down here. Okay, so this little pack has 2 sizes. So let's figure out, I'm thinking down here, we definitely don't want, we could put a purple one there, and we could have a black one there. We don't want orange down here, and because there's a lot of orange I feel like it's going on. I think that is more than plenty. There's a lot going on our card. We could probably even get away with not doing embellishments, but we might as well because they're cute. These sequin have like a flattish side, and then the other side kind of curves up like a shallow bowl. I always put that flat side down. Okay, so this is our next card. This is card number 4. I'm going to be putting my logo sticker on the back like always, but this actually turned out super cute, and I love the decision that I made to turn the pattern paper into a frame instead of just using the whole thing. It almost looks like this is a piece of paper on top of the pattern paper when it really isn't. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed today's card tutorial. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And until I see you in the next card or craft, as always, have an amazing day and happy crafting.
Thank you all so much for watching today. I'm so glad that you can join me at my craft table. If you're not already, I'd love to have you as a subscriber, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way you'll know when new videos arrive. Have a great day, and as always, happy crafting.